I'm Alexis, owner of Troodaloo Dolls in 3D, and today I'm going to show you how I like to string my ball jointed dolls. Okay, let's get started. So as of now, all of the dolls that I sell in my Etsy shop are exclusively dolls made by the artist AelithArt. And this one here is one of the Kabbit models. I've got all kinds of different Kabbit sculpts, but they all generally have the same proportions and body shape, and so that's what I will be stringing today. So this doll, as you see, is already strung, but I had done this one a while ago, and I had used thinner elastic than what I use currently. So as you see, it's kind of floppy because of that. Right now it's strung with 2mm elastic, and now I prefer to use 3mm elastic for the 28cm dolls, which is what the Kabbit is. And I find that it works much better for stability and holding poses, so they're not, you know, just kind of flopping around like this. So we're gonna kind of disassemble this one right here, and this doll has magnetic hands. So they're nice for dressing. So if you order a doll kit from my shop, then it comes with pretty much everything that you need already, save for some glue and, you know, some tools that might be helpful for getting the elastic strung. Actually, this might not be the best way to go. Let's just take the feet off first. There we go. Let's see. Also, for my Kabbit kits, all of the pieces should have a label on the inside somewhere with an L and an R for left and right. And that is for the Kabbits left and right, not for if you are looking at them face forward, your left and right. It's the Kabbit dolls left and right, which kind of gets confusing if you're not used to it, but yep. Okay, those are left. I'd also like to note there are many different ways to string a ball jointed doll. Many that I don't even know of how to do, but this way is the way that I learned how to do it through Aelith himself, and I found that it works really well for these dolls in particular. So if you are trying to string a different ball jointed doll or a different sculpt, this method will probably work, but there might be other ways that might work better. Sometimes it's also just trial and error. So here's the thinner elastic that I have before, and you can see it's already kind of stretched out. I prefer sturdier elastic. I find that it holds poses really well. Speaking of elastic, I forgot to grab mine. And I've also found that if you are sourcing your own elastic, the elastic that you find in craft stores, in my experience, has not been great. It's too kind of soft and stretchy and does not hold tension very well. It will stretch out really quickly and easily. So this elastic is 3mm elastic from the brand You Sew. It's the letter U and then the word sew on Amazon, and I find that it works really well. I've found too that searching for bungee elastic or what's it called, shock cord elastic seems to be much better suited for ball jointed dolls than craft elastic because it's a bit sturdier. out. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces now disassembled. And for Kabbit dolls specifically, the 28 centimeter dolls, what I have found to work pretty well with a 3mm elastic is about 30 centimeters for the leg loops. And you will need 2 pieces of elastic. Actually, that's probably 30 and a half. Just go to the end of my ruler. So that looks like 30 and a half centimeters. So the method that I use is a double loop method. Some ball jointed dolls, the main part of the body and the legs uses just one big loop, and it goes from the head down through the body and then into both of the feet. But excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold. Anyway, I find that the double loop method works really well. And for the arms, I usually do about 9 to 9.5 inches. I'm going to do 9.5 right now. And in the doll kits that I offer, I cut the elastic a little bit longer. Excuse me again. I tend to prefer to string my dolls a little bit tight because I prefer them not to be loosey-goosey. But I know that's not everyone's preference, so I try to accommodate for having extra elastic so that you're not really struggling to get the elastic through, because that can definitely happen. That has happened to me many times. Okay, so we have our elastic cut. We're going to take the 2 longer pieces. These are our leg pieces. And I just take them and put a knot in the end. You want to try to get it fairly close to the end of the elastic. And I kind of hold onto this tail and push up on the knot. And then tug on the tail. And then once you get that tight, I take it a step further and I grab the knot and then really pull on this loop to kind of lock it in. So there we go. We've got our first loop. It's okay to have extra room on the tail here. The length accommodates for that, so it's totally fine. We'll do the same thing here. This is honestly a little bit longer than the tails usually are whenever I string a doll, but it should be fine. Yes, we'll see. And then here is the 1 loop for the arms. And I will show you how to do that when we get there. Pull and then kind of slide up on that knot. And this just helps it to be much more secure. Okay, I like to start with the torso and do the arms. I also just realized that I forgot to go through the supplies that I used to string my dolls. So you saw the elastic. You will need a ruler. You'll need scissors. These are 1 inch S-hooks, and these come in the kits if you buy from me. These are smaller 1/2 inch S-hooks. Also come with a kit. These are for hands and feet, and if your doll has it, jointed ears. We've got the magnets for the head cap, and these are, I believe, 8 by 2mm magnets. That's what most of the Kabbit dolls and the dolls in my shop use. For stringing, I use ribbon, and I usually have 2 pieces. I will show you how here in just a moment. I used to use a paper clip that I unfolded and kind of used as a hook to push down through the doll, and that definitely works as well. But just recently I've started stringing from the head down to the feet, and I found that ribbon works a lot better for that method. Super glue or Gorilla Glue works great for the magnets, dries pretty quickly. That's what I usually use. Locking forceps are great, very helpful for stringing the doll, especially when you are going to attach hands and the feet. If there's a lot of tension on your elastic, it can be hard to hold with your fingers. So these really come in handy. And then I like to have a chopstick handy. It doesn't have to be a chopstick. It could be a pen or pencil, anything. But I use it to kind of keep the elastic from the side that I'm not currently stringing from getting lost inside of the doll. And I will show you that as well. So let's go ahead and start on, let's move this here, stringing the upper body of the doll. So you take your elastic and you kind of want to make a sandwich with it in half so that the knot is in the center. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. It's going to move anyway, but it can be helpful. This part can be a little tricky. So just take your time. One of the loops goes through one arm socket and the other goes through the other arm socket. There we go. Forceps can be kind of handy for this too. I can grab onto it for you. Okay, got that in there. Should look something like this. And this is when I take the chopstick and kind of put it into the side that I'm not going to be working on. So that way the elastic does not get sucked into the doll and you have to fish it out again. All right, so we are going to be working on the Kabbit's right side. Let me make sure these are all the left side pieces. I switched it up. Okay, right side pieces, and we start with the upper arm, bicep area, and I take my ribbon and I string it through the elastic. And then from here, as Aelith said himself, this is like an elaborate beaded necklace now. And I liked that analogy. Whoop, there went my ruler. Okay. And now we take the elbow, and for Kabbit dolls, the elbow joint has one side that's thicker and then one side that's thinner. And the thicker side is what goes toward the body. You just take that, string it on there. I always mean to either tape or put glue on or even kind of burn the ends of my ribbon so that it would be a bit stiffer, kind of like a shoelace. I think it would make things a lot easier, but I never do. So, okay, and now we're taking the forearm again, just string it on there. Okay, it's looking good. And this is the magnetic wrist. This is an add-on option in my shop. Like I said, it's really handy for dressing and undressing. But I also have hands that do not have the magnet option. So what we need to do is we go ahead and get one of our small 1/2 inch hooks ready. We're going to pull the elastic through till it comes through. I'm going to use my walking forceps, or you can just kind of muscle it and hold it there if you don't have forceps, which also works. It can just be a little hard. And I put the small end of the hook, so the hook has a larger end and a smaller end. I put the small end of the hook onto the elastic, and then you just take your wrist and hook it onto there, pull the ribbon out, and then unlock the forceps. And then there we have our first arm strung, and it's going to be a little bit loose until we get the other one on, but that's okay. From here, I like to, so if you just pull the elastic out like this, this knot has the risk of popping out of the shoulder, and that is not what we want. That's really going to affect posing and just aesthetically. So what I like to do is I like to find the elastic that, the end of the elastic that does not have the knot, and I kind of pull on it and pinch and pull so that now our knot did not move. It is still in the center, but we have a lot more elastic to work with. So from here, chopstick usually gets in the way, so I just take it out. And we do the same thing that we did on the other side. Okay, so now we do the same thing. We take our elastic, pull it out. It's going to be a little bit more tight this time, though we already have the first one strung. This is when the walking forceps really come in handy. We take our hook and we small end through the elastic and then put on our wrist. So there we have the upper body. It's nice and sturdy with the 3mm elastic. It poses pretty well. Okay, so now we are going to go ahead and move on to the rest of the body. As I mentioned earlier, I now like to string from the head of the doll down into the feet. I used to do it feet up, but I just found that I like doing it this way better. That way you're not having to, especially with thicker elastic, you're not having to try to yank these thicker knots up through the neck channel, because that is very difficult, the thicker elastic that you use. So this is kind of a way to get around that. So I take both of our loops, put a ribbon through both ends, and we're going to go through the inside of the head, pull the ribbon through. To be honest, with the 3mm elastic, there's not much risk of the knots popping through, even without a hook, but I always use them just in case. You never know, especially if you are stringing your doll pretty tightly. It is definitely possible to pull those knots out, and that is very frustrating when that happens. Okay, so I'm going to grab our 1-inch hook for the head. Oh, that one is very stretched out. Let's try again. It's always kind of like playing monkeys in a barrel, getting your hooks out. Alright, so the large end of the hook is what hooks into the elastic. Okay, we've got that in there, and we're just going to give it a little tug and pull it down. So now I'm still keeping both loops of elastic on this single ribbon, and we're going to go down through the neck. push it through. This takes a little bit of effort going through the neck since the elastic is thick and the neck channel is small, but nothing that you can't do. Okay, so now we got the head on. And from here, I like to use 2 ribbons, so 1 in each loop. It just makes things easier later on. Okay, so we've got our ribbon, and here's the torso. Then from here, you just feed 1 loop through the left side and 1 loop through the right side. At this point, it does not matter which loop goes on which side. Sometimes your ribbon gets stuck, especially really soft, silky ribbons like this one. I much prefer this one. It's kind of stiffer and has like kind of plastic thread on the edges, which makes it a little bit easier, behave more. We're just going to find that other end of the ribbon. You could also use pliers, or maybe tweezers would fit as well. There we go. Okay, and then, oh my, what is happening? Okay, this is a little out of control, but there we go. Now you kind of pull it down and out, and then we've got our individual leg loops ready. So I'm going to start with the Kabbit's left side, which is going to look like the right to us. So, of course, I put the pieces on the wrong side, but we can look and see which pieces are left and right. Okay, so now just kind of doing the same thing as we did with the arms. We've got our thigh. We're going to take our knee, and the with the knees, you'll see it says either left or right, and that will be the side with the label, the letter that goes upwards. This doll is a little dirty. She's seen some things. My toddler came in here one day with a paintbrush and found some dried up gouache that I had. Oops. In a little bowl, and she somehow found some water and poured it into the gouache, which reactivates it, and just painted all over this poor lady. It's a little worse for wear, but that's okay. All right, so we got the knee. The letter side is facing upwards. Take our shin. Got that. And then now, do pretty much the same thing with the arm. I gave this a little extra length, so it's easier to kind of hold on to without the forceps. But definitely, I mean, I'm still struggling, as you can see. Okay, got our hook, and then put on your foot. And there you go, that's a leg. Looking pretty good. So we just have to do the last one, and then we are about to be finished as far as the stringing portion goes. So this is the human Kabbit sculpt with the small shin and small feet option. There are also larger feet that we can do, and they have larger foot openings to accommodate for that. Hook. Okay, and there we go. We've got our doll strung, and I just realized that we've got some elastic poking out of the back. So I kind of just pull up, tuck that in, and there we go. Okay, this is even a bit looser than what I usually tend to string, but it's much easier to do the stringing when the elastic is not so tight. Yeah, that is honestly more slack than I prefer, but as we can see, it's still way more stable than with the original thinner elastic. We can do all sorts of crazy things, and the legs are not buckling and it's not being very kicky, which is what we want, because that is very frustrating. And then the little magnet hands just pop right on there. But if you have an unassembled kit and the magnets are not in at this point, this is when you would take your glue and put the magnets in the head. Make sure you flip your magnets around before you put them in the head cap. That is that can be a challenge to keep up with, and I will show you kind of what I like to do to help me keep track of which side of the magnet needs to go where. So I get my stack of magnets and just anything that is magnetic, and put it on the top there so that we know which end we are working with. So you'd put in your glue and kind of just use the whole stack instead of individual magnets. But if you have a kit, then you might only have a few magnets, so it is definitely still possible. If I have a stack of magnets, I kind of put it in. Oh, it doesn't always work. Put it in and slide the other magnets out of the way. It can be a less messy option. You can do it like that. Do both sides, or if you just have your one magnet, you just have to really be conscious of which side of the magnet you just put down. I used to take a Sharpie and mark the sides of the magnet, but that sometimes did not always work. But I found this method here works pretty well. So once you get the two magnets in either your head cap or the head, take off your magnetic object, flip your stack around, and now put it on the new top. And so that way we've got our magnets, one pole is this way, and then we put it in the head cap the other way, they will stick together. I've misglued magnets many times, and it is frustrating. And if you have the magnetic wrists or magnetic feet, you just do the same thing. The magnets are just smaller. And then if, again, you have a kit, I will have included a pair of eyes and some sticky tack for you. And you can place the eyes in whatever direction you like. I do not love placing eyes. That's one of my least favorite parts of the dolls. But, you can have them looking to the side, up, to the center, straight forward, just whatever tickles your fancy. And here we have a fully assembled doll. Ta-da! Okay, here she is. Please let me know if you have any questions, if anything was not clear enough. I am more than happy to answer questions or help in any way that I can. Let me know what you think, and thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you later.